I'm a laid back guy.
Right.
But getting into character, being intentional. I gotta do this. This is a people business. One of my favorite books of all time is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, yeah.
That book, I read that book a little over 20 years ago, Marvin. That really shaped my mind, my mindset, destiny. To really be able to connect with people, being able to talk to people, influence people, and genuinely doing it, not some fake stuff.
Right.
Really listening, being a good listener, being a good communicator, caring about people's needs. Come from a place of abundance, not from just a salesy type way, like I'm trying to get a sale. People can smell commission breath. Is that right?
It's a stanky breath. It really is.
Stanky breath.
So for today's video, my guest drops so much fire, and you are not going to walk away from this conversation unmotivated about where you are in your business. I could be candid, success leaves clues. And if what you're doing is not working in your business, take a listen to today's conversation to see where are those blind spots you're personally having that's keeping you from moving your business forward. Mr. Rod has 17 years of experience as a real estate professional, a former Marine and currently an associate pastor. When I tell you all of those experiences weave together perfectly, and you will see in today's conversation why he is so successful in his business. You're in for an absolute treat. As always, if you're enjoying the content that we're throwing up here on this podcast, let us know by leaving a thumbs up on YouTube. And of course, if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, be sure to leave us a 5-star review. Now let's dive into the conversation with Mr. Rod Obie. What's going on, everyone? For today's conversation, I have a fellow real estate professional, Mr. Rod Obie, on the channel. Mr. Rod, how are you today?
Oh man, doing fabulous, sir. Just excited to be here today.
When I tell you all, Mr. Rod, if you don't walk away from this conversation doing a praise break, a shout, a something motivating, excited about your business, your life, anything you got going on outside of real estate, trust and believe you are going to walk away from this conversation feeling empowered. Mr. Rod is a real estate professional in the DMV area, if I'm not mistaken. Four-time icon, just doing some amazing things on the East Coast for his clients and other real estate professionals. And I brought him on to tell a little bit of his story. You're going to learn a lot about his background, the things he's got going on inside and outside of real estate. But I don't want to hold up any more of your time. Mr. Rod, tell the good people about yourself, and we'll jump right in.
Man, Marvin, it's definitely an honor and a privilege to be with you here, sir. And I just appreciate everything that you're doing in the real estate and just business space, just elevating the community, elevating people, and just raising the bar, man. So first of all, kudos to you. Congratulations. And just wanted to celebrate you for a minute for the great work that you're doing. So I really appreciate it. And it's definitely an honor to be here, man. I'm here in the DMV area, the DC metropolitan area. That's the DC, Maryland, and Virginia. We kind of like a tri-state. We call it the DMV. Been in this area probably about 30 years or so. Originally from the great state of Louisiana. So I'm a Southern boy. Awesome. So every now and then it's going to slip out. You take the boy out of the South, but you can't take the South out of the boy completely.
Of course.
Yeah, so been in this area for about 30 years. Yes, sir.
Love it. What part of New Orleans?
I'm actually from Shreveport. I'm from up north.
Shreveport. Okay, awesome,
yes,
awson.
From Shreveport, Louisiana.
Home of the best gumbo in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, sir. Catfish too.
By the time you guys see this recording here and listen to this podcast, my family and I will be taking a trip down to Louisiana. I'm super excited for the beignets, gumbo, coffee, all that jazz. So,
oh man.
Now, servicing the DMV area, where is your main focus between the three cities?
Northern Virginia. So we live about 30 miles outside of Washington, D.C. in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. Okay. So Northern Virginia, and I do a little bit over in Maryland too, and recently went over into DC as well. Had a couple of opportunities that I couldn't pass up. So I said, let me go get the DC license and, serve the good folks in Washington, DC as well. So, but primarily in the Northern Virginia area, suburbs of Washington, DC.
So when I first saw Mr. Rod, it was on a live stream with our brokers, the best brokerage this side of the Mason-Dixie, in my extremely biased opinion. And you were really bringing the fire in a very unique way. And Mr. Rod, you, at least initially hearing you speak, I see I see that you're definitely not a one-dimensional real estate professional, but I am curious to know what is your background before real estate, and then talk to us about what got you into real estate.
Sure, man. Yeah, unique question. So, unique background. I don't know if you know that, but I'm a former U.S. Marine.
Wow.
So, left Shreveport, Louisiana, and right out of high school, went into the Marines, and it really had an amazing career in the Marine Corps. I kind of found myself, in high school, Marvin. They were kind of wondering about me, man. Because in the late
Wow.
'80s, I partied, hung out, and
Oh,
I was supposed to be going off to college, going
yeah.
down to Grambling or Southern, and had an amazing time in high school with my '77 Firebird Trans Am with a lot of music in the back.
That's a classic vehicle. Classic vehicle.
Classic, yeah, that Burt Reynolds Smoking the Bandit version.
Of course.
So I was a young man that grew up, had a need for speed and loud music. And but I told my dad I wanted to make dad proud. I kept him in court enough with speed violations and traffic violations as a kid. So I said I wanted to I want to do something to make mom and dad proud. So
Absolutely.
I signed up to go to the Marines. At the time I felt like, man, that's gonna be that's the toughest one, and their uniforms look better than the rest, in my opinion. But big shout out to all the veterans and service members out there
For
too.
sure.
But yeah, I went off to the Marines and really, like I say, found myself. The Marines really agreed with me, and I did some unique things in the Marine Corps.
Hmm.
I became first assigned to the Officer Candidate School, the permanent personnel working at the Officer Candidate School, and then
Okay.
I found out about this program, unique program in the Marine Corps, where Marines can go out on a diplomatic assignment and be assigned to the American embassies around the world.
Wow.
So I volunteered to go to that school, and it's one of the toughest schools in the Marine Corps to successfully graduate from, and
Yeah.
about 50% attrition rate. Half the people don't make it.
Oh, wow.
So long story short, I made it through the school, became an embassy Marine, serving at the American embassies down in Central America and also over in the Middle East in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
Um, Came back to the US, worked at the Pentagon, and one day I got a call and said, hey, there's one position that at the White House that the Marine Corps can only send one person to interview for this position. And I was
Wow.
selected to represent the Marine Corps to go down to the White House, interview for this position. And I was interviewing against one person from all the other services as well. Army,
Hmm.
Navy, Air Force, they all sent their best person.
Right.
And man, I talked about my experiences being out there on that diplomatic assignment, working at the American embassies and
Yeah.
serving at the Pentagon and all. And lo and behold, I got the job. So, man, I got some great stories I'll be able to tell to my grandkids one day, flying over Air Force One around the world,
Yeah.
walking around the White House with President Clinton, traveling on Air Force One with President Clinton around the world. So, just a little bit about me. So, I bring those unique experiences. Also, was a team leader as well in the Marine Corps. So that's and we'll probably talk about that later. I have an amazing team called the Dream Team that I
Okay.
coach, train, mentor, and lead those guys. So those experiences leading teams in the Marines, I
Yes.
kind of translated that over. So my energy, my drive, my passion, a lot of that comes from the Marine Corps. And so nowadays, and well, not nowadays, but and also that's kind of my past. So now translating that all into who I am now is
Right.
I'm also, my wife and I, we're associate pastors at our church here, our local church here
Wow.
in Northern Virginia. So bringing my faith, my passion, my energy, my drive as a Marine, man, you bottle that up and that, hey, that's Rod Obi, man.
I love it, man. I
Yes,
love it,
sir.
Rod. So, and I'm hearing essentially that your path was not a linear path to real estate. First and foremost, thank you for your service to the country. I definitely don't want to speed past that. You are the second armed forces individual who's been on the
Awesome.
podcast. So
Awesome.
I can already tell that your life is definitely all about structure. The Marines are not for the weak, and for you to have made it to that additional school that you mentioned having a 50% attrition failure rate, that means you were the cream of the cream of the crop. And so, discipline, fortitude, stick to itiveness, and then now serviceship to your congregation as associate pastor. So now that loops in the spiritual and operating in a spirit of integrity at all times.
Absolutely.
So, how long have you been a licensed real estate professional?
Been licensed of 17 years.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Got my license back in '06. And of course, you know what happened to the market a couple of years after that, man. It was a rough time. And man, I stuck with it. A lot of folks got out of the industry during that time. You know, the bottom dropped out, and we didn't know what was going on during that season, that period, what was going to happen in the real estate industry. But you know,
Yeah.
of course, I had to go back and get a job. But I hung in there. I hung in there until it was time in the season for me to be able to step out there again full time in real estate. So
I love it.
yeah,
Now, of course, you're a fellow realtor, real estate professional with EXP, and if you want to learn more about why top tier individuals such as Rod, myself, and others that have been guests on this podcast have joined EXP, reach out to either one of us. I'll put Rod's information in the show notes of this podcast. But joining where you are now, obviously you started at a different brokerage. What was that experience like, and what ultimately led you to transitioning to EXP now?
absolutely, Marvin. Man, so man, contrary to popular belief, man, I struggled. I wasn't doing a thing before I came to EXP.
Yeah.
EXP was my fourth company. And
Oh
I
wow.
started I started at the big KW, the red company there. Started that was only there for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Received a call. My pastors had actually started their own real estate company,
Oh.
small boutique brokerage. So you know,
Yeah.
you get a call from the pastor say, "Hey, you know, hey Deacon, I need you to come on over to my company."
Of course.
And so
Of
I
course.
dropped everything and buy, you know, all this or that. You know, didn't think twice about it. Went over there, and that's where I really learned real estate because I was in that small environment where you know we had some other brokers, and there's just a small boutique brokerage. So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
my first introduction to real estate. And you know, after about 2 or 3 years, they decided a company, and we all went our separate ways. And I went to 100% company. So this is for all the people out there, these 100% companies. So you're getting me all round up here, Mark.
Yeah, we'll talk about that for sure. But
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, wasn't doing a whole lot there. That year before EXP Realty, I did like 4 transactions, made $25,000. So you can imagine what my price point was, you
wow.
know. But that year, that first year coming over to EXP, and I was celebrating 10 years here at EXP. I'm
Wow.
officially one of the OGs
Yeah,
now.
you're an OG. OG. Yes, sir.
Government. The first year at EXP, with a full-time job, I was working as a government contractor at the time,
Okay.
in meetings all day long, Marvin. In meetings to get ready for the meetings. You know, this is what the life of supporting the government. You know, that first year I doubled my business. With a
Mm.
part time in the business, I made about $50,000,
Wow.
and I'm like, man. And that second year, made about $75,000, you know,
Wow.
part-time in real estate here at EXP Realty. And
Yeah.
that third year, I was making over $100,000, making six-figure income, doing over 5 million in sales, part-time in the business,
Wow.
because I was at EXP Realty. And
Okay.
it's really, I attributed to the model, all of this, the tools, the training, the access to training, access to people. I'd have to drive to the office one day and help and hope that the big guy was there to give me, you know, to teach a class, but I can
Yeah.
log on from the comfort of my home. And
Right.
also because of the model, now I'm a part of a group, you know, we call it our revenue share group. I'm a part of a group now that has a vested interest in my success. You know,
Right.
they wanted me to succeed. They wanted me to sell more homes. They wanted me to do well in the business. So
Right.
even though I was an amazing person, had done all these great things in the military, you know, great with people, it
Yeah.
wasn't until I got in the right place at the right time around the right people to
Yep.
give me some coaching, some training, some mentoring. I know one of my mentors, Guy Allen. You might want to get Guy Allen on here one day. Guy
Okay.
Allen been in business 40 years. Said, Rod, I know you had a 100% company, but what if I can show you how to get a whole lot more of these 80s, these 80/20s, and then get you the 100% too? I
Right.
say, man, and then you know, a question he also said, I said, you know, what can be better than 100%?
Right.
What can be better? I'm at 100%. I don't even have to figure out to get a calculator to figure out my commission. But he said, Rod, what if I can show you how to make 100% plus? I was like, how can that even be possible? And
Wow.
lo and behold, sure enough, it's been an amazing ride. EXP has made my family first generation millionaires because of the
Wow.
stock equity ownership in the company. And just we
Wow.
now, you know, fast forward, that guy who had not even sold, but four transactions before EXP has now made a multiple seven figures here at EXP Realty. So God is good, man.
Wow. That is powerful. That is powerful. And I want to take a step back as it relates to how you were able to still scale your business year over year as a
Yeah,
part-time agent. But, this will be the only plug, guys and girls listening, for EXP. I promise it'll be the last plug, is what I should say. And how the model, and I know, Rod, you've got a story and a blueprint that you follow that got you to this point. But no
yeah,
brokerage is perfect, right? We know that, there are some out there that,
mm,
they're kind of stealing what EXP is doing and trying to
sure.
put their own McDowell's to McDonald's
Right,
spin
right,
on it,
right.
right? And I've in the 100%, brokerages, I've had those conversations with those agents about that, where 100% brokerages, they're like, well, why would I go to a place that's 80/20? But what I've found tried and true with those scenarios, those 100%, those you only pay us a couple $100 for the closing, is very rarely do they offer the support that you're going to need as a new agent, the support the education that's going to be required as a consistent agent or a veteran agent, and ultimately the end game as a
Hmm.
retiring agent. And so, what this particular model does, and being first to market is a powerful thing, but what this
Yeah.
particular model does is it sets newbie agents up for success. Agents that are in their groove, doing their thing, it gives them additional streams of income that they can utilize to build their business. And folks that are not trying to sell houses at 80, they have a game plan that they can retire from because of the rev share model, because of the stock purchases, things of that nature. So it's really, honestly, it's perfect as of a brokerage as one can have right now. And so definitely have that conversation with myself or Rod in regards to it. But Rod, how exactly in the world did you scale your business year over year as a part-time agent? There's got to be some kind of
Absolutely.
blueprint you followed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, man, I adopted what really resonated with me. There's so many ways out there to lead generate. There's so many ways to get leads and pay for leads and all these services. But what
Right.
really resonated with me is my relationships. Man,
Mm,
Marvin, I'm the relationship. I'm the connector, man. I love connecting with people, talking to people. There's a lot of people in the DMV and really around the country that know, like, and trust Rod Obi.
that's awesome.
And they don't mind sending business to Rod because he's going to take exceptional care and and provide great service to them. So
Absolutely.
my business has really been built on my know, like, and trust relationships. Those folks here in the area, my family, my friends, those people that I serve with, those people that I fellowship with and worship with in my church, and
Right.
their friends, their families. So the word started getting out about me, and I've been able to, like, uniquely train and teach and coach my clients and friends on how to send business to Rod Obi.
I love that.
So yeah, I just don't leave it casually, and I'm very intentional about telling you that, if you hear anybody thinking about real estate,
Right.
hey, you should call Rod Obi. Here's a number. Give them my number and ask them it's okay if I can get their number. So I've created a huge army of referral partners that
Yeah.
send me business consistently. So that's what I've been able to really leverage and hone. Of course, man, I'm a prospecting machine. When it comes to my business cards, if you're not running out of business cards, if you're not ordering boxes of business cards, then you're not doing something right. I'm a connector. I go through business cards, so I'm always out there meeting with people and
Yeah.
talking to people, shaking hands and kissing babies, just like I'm running for office, Marvin.
Absolutely.
But you got to be giving those cards. You got to be a walking billboard. And I say those little cards are my mini billboard. So everywhere that I go, I'm leaving them. I'm talking to them. I'm at a store. I'm at a gas station. I'm at a restaurant. I'm giving somebody my card. So I'm always actively, proactively prospecting that way as well. But man,
Right.
I leverage those know, like, and trust relationships, and I systematically stay in touch with them. I touch them so many times a year. I
Okay.
call them, I text them, I check on them. I send them, I have them set up to receive home values. I set up the MKV core to receive emails from me, information about me. So I'm touching them, reminding them that, hey, I am still open for business.
Yeah.
So that's what I've really been able to leverage over the years is those relationships, man. I love it. I love going to a listing appointment and I ain't got to fight and spread, go there with my hat in my hand, hoping and praying that they do business with me.
Yeah.
But I go there like, hey, when do we want to put the sign in the yard? When do we want to get the photographer by here to do the photo shoot? It's a completely different conversation
Right.
when you're working on a referral and somebody that knows you and like you and trusts you. So
And I have this thing with my team, and I'm a very much social media, YouTube, digital door knock guy. But you're
Mhm.
absolutely right. The getting back to basics, the tried and true, the shaking hands and kissing babies. I love that analogy. That is still very important. So something that I've suggested to folks to do is to make one new friend per day.
Yeah.
So for me, my morning routine, I'm in the gym as early as possible, and I try to
Mhm.
make one new friend there. If I got to run errands after I leave the gym, I try to make one friend at the grocery store.
That's
But
awesome.
absolutely, if you make one new friend a day, and a friend is relative, right? But you
Mhm.
introduce yourself to a complete stranger. For one, you're going to get a lot of reps in interacting with people. At some point, you're going to be able, during that conversation, to tell them that you do real estate or that you're into real
Absolutely.
estate. And then ultimately, if you meet one new person a day, after 365 days, assuming the math is as it should be,
Wow.
you've made 365 friends, right? So out of those
Absolutely.
365 friends, someone, maybe 10% maybe will be ready to do something with you in real estate now.
Right.
Maybe a year or so from now, 20% of that book of business essentially that you've created, of individuals that know, like, and trust you because you've gotten to know them, it's not transactional. They will
It's
be ready to do business. And then it just kind of compounds
right.
from there. So I think that's
Or
very,
they
very
know
powerful.
somebody who's looking to buy and sell real estate.
I love it.
That's where it really gets to compounding.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Whew.
Absolutely. My first sale was literally, again, taking that one friend a day approach. My background is in communications. My degree is in communications. So I like to talk. But for me, having a career where it was mainly on the phone sales, things of that nature, I learned to deal with rejection very, very early. I got cussed out very early. I used to be a bill collector, so I definitely wasn't the favorite, the most favorite guy a person would want to talk to on the phone. But walk us
You
through.
sound like a nice bill collector.
Oh yeah, I was honestly, I was. But ultimately, being in a career where you have a service, you're a service-based business owner. Walk an introverted individual through, Rod, how they can at least pretend to be an extrovert and build their
Mhm.
business, because as you mentioned, this is a relationship business.
Absolutely. And Marvin, man, I am, and I've learned the art of being an extroverted introvert.
Love it.
I'm an introvert, man. I could sit in this office all day long, not talk to nobody, but you put me in a space around people, lights, camera, action. I turn it on. So
Right.
sometimes you got to get into character. You got to
Mm,
get into character. You're the director of your life. So sometimes you got to get into character, start seeing the person who you need to become. See
right.
the person that you need to become and go get into character. Go
Right.
out there and start meeting people, turn it on, be intentional about it, focus, visualize, see yourself making and connecting with people. That's
Right.
what I had to do, Marvin. I'm a quiet person, but man, I'm a little shy in ways. But you put me on
Can't
stage,
tell,
you put
brother.
the microphone in my mouth, man. I'm going. I open up with praise and worship and give God glory. But I'm really a
Yeah.
quiet, laid back guy.
Right.
But getting into character, being intentional. I gotta do this. This is a people business. One of my favorite books of all time is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh yeah,
That
that's a
book, I
strong
read
start.
that book a little over 20 years ago, Marvin. That really shaped my mind, my mindset, destiny.
Yeah.
To really be able to connect with people, being able to really just being able to talk to people,
Right.
influence people, um, and genuinely doing it, not some fake stuff,
Right.
really listening, being a good listener, being a,
Right.
a good communicator,
Right.
caring about people's needs,
Right.
come from a place of abundance, not from just a salesy type way, like I'm trying to get a sale. People can
Absolutely.
smell commission breath. Is that right?
Oh yeah. It's a
People can
it's a
smell it.
stanky breath. It
It's
really
a
is.
thank you. So
Yeah.
you want to come from a place of how can I help you?
Right.
How can I serve you?
Right.
I ain't on this thing about commission. You need to work with somebody who's going to care for you,
Right.
who's going to take care and make sure that everything's covered, that you're protected in this transaction. This is one of the largest transactions you're going to do in your lifetime. So you want to make sure that you're working with somebody of integrity. That I'm
Right.
going to care for you. I'm going to watch it. Think about what's your value proposition. What do you bring to the table, and
Absolutely.
lead with a position of care
Right.
and love for that person.
I love
And
it.
then that takes away a lot of the things that we go through as folks who are introverts or quiet that don't like to talk to people, but you're there to help and serve.
And I think when you take that approach, again, you're playing a long game, right?
Right.
The transactional agent, the desperate agent, the individual that has that commission breath It's
Yeah.
very off-putting. I'm an energy guy. I'm a discernment guy, and I know when someone's trying to sell me something.
Right.
And having that sales background, I'm like, oh man, if you'd have just approached it like this or that, you would have closed
Yeah.
me. But you literally talked yourself out of this deal. And I think new agents, there's a lot that they have to unlearn, because if
Mm.
depending on the school you went to or what you watched on YouTube or the previous brokers that you were with, they may have told you that there's only one linear way to close
Right.
business. But we're in 2023. We're in the information age. We are in the time where people are trusting but verifying, right? So it's very
Mhm.
important to operate in a level of integrity. So, talk about in your tenure, because you've been doing this for nearly 2 decades, Rod.
Mhm.
What are some of the reasons that real estate professionals fail in this business? And what are some of the reasons you've seen folks succeed in this business?
Mm. Reasons they just fail and
Yeah.
succeed. I would think I probably answer them in the same time almost, but
Yeah.
they're not talking to enough people. I see that with a lot of agents. We agents get busy doing a lot of realtoring, doing a lot of busy stuff.
Yeah, man.
Um, there's so many, they're chasing so many squirrels, so many shiny objects. They're
Yes.
in learn mode all the time.
Yeah.
This is again, it goes back. This is a people business.
Right.
Everybody around me, my community, my surroundings, these are the people that are owning homes. The equity is in the homes, the
Right.
owners, the homeowners.
Right.
Everybody's paid from the equity that's in the home of the owners. So there's people all around us, but we got to find a way to really tap into them, have more conversations, talk to more people about real estate. The
Right.
successful agents are the agents who are having more conversations. They're connecting with more people, whether it's social media, video. But I tell my agents all the time, if you're doing, I love videos, but it's the long game. If you're not getting calls, if you're not getting having conversations as a result of those videos, you got to supplement it with conversations. I
Yes.
want you to do the videos, I want you posting. But at the end of the day, if you're not receiving leads and you're calling those leads to get an appointment, if they're not turning into appointments where
Yeah.
you're getting signed agreements and buyer agreements, guys, you got to prospect more. You got to have more conversations. So mostly agents are not having enough conversations. You got to go back to the old school Mike Ferry's. You got to be calling, you got to be prospecting, you got to be
Right.
lead generating,
Right.
and not be fantasized, or it's this illusion that if I do a whole lot of busy stuff, that
Right.
the business is just going to automatically happen.
Right.
It's not true. You got to be having those conversations. If my folks, if I'm not getting business from my folks, then I got to crank up some other area of having conversations, tracking my numbers. How
Yeah.
many conversations, how many calls, how many appointments? Am I doing my lead follow-up? Am I getting out there planting seeds? I'm like a farmer, man. Everywhere I go, I'm planting those seeds,
Yeah.
waiting for the harvest to come back. But at the end of the day, I got to be having conversations. I got to be checking on folks talking about real estate. And I think that's where a lot of folks, a lot of agents fail because they're not having enough conversations. It takes about, I think Nard did some stats, it takes about 40 to 50 conversations,
Yep.
depending on your experience level, to one transaction.
Right.
So the momentum never really gets built up. You may stop. You may be having only 5 to 10 conversations a week, and it's not enough to get you to one closed transaction.
It's true.
So
It's
you
true.
got to know your numbers, and a lot of agents don't know their numbers.
Right.
They're not tracking their numbers. So you got to be talking to enough people about real estate. This is, I mean, it's a people business. You got to be talking. You got to be opening up your mouth and say something.
Right. Right.
You got to be talking. You got to be prospecting.
And I noticed, and you said something on the live stream that I want to walk through, because
Mhm.
you've encapsulated it in this explanation here. When business, I think you said, oh, I don't want to misquote you, but help me out here. But you said, when business is great, make your calls. When
Yeah,
business is slow, make your calls. Is that essentially what that means? That you should just always
absolutely.
be working the phones?
Yeah, you got to be picking up. Yeah, yeah. So say I heard, one of my coaches say, when the phone is ringing, you gotta pick up the phone when it's ringing. You got to pick it up when it's not ringing.
Right. Right. Right.
So you got to be answering your calls. I answer my calls. I get calls because I get a lot of referrals coming in. So I got to answer those calls that I don't recognize who they are. So
Right.
I'm big on answering my phone.
Yeah.
But you also got to be making outbound calls. You got to be prospecting. You got to be lead generating. You got to be having those conversations about real estate so it counts
Yeah.
as a real live conversation about real estate. Sometimes we get an illusion of, or haven't been trained right. We just making calls, it's going to voicemail. We're not even talking to anybody. We're doing a lot of posting this and that. Yeah, all that's great.
Right.
But you got to have some two-way dialogue about real estate.
Absolutely.
In order to count toward that number. It's a numbers game.
Absolutely. And you got to keep your pipeline full. The great thing about whatever broker you're with, you should have a good CRM system. Oftentimes folks will ask, well, what's the best CRM to use? I'm like, it's the one that you use regularly, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that you're right. That's something that I'm helping folks with, and helping folks understand that, busy doesn't necessarily mean productive. And I think a lot of brand new agents, they want to just start attacking all aspects of the business. And I tell folks, 90% of what you learned when you just got your license, because I have a lot of like new agents on my team and whatnot, no one's going to ask you about riparian rights in real estate.
Right.
Do you remember riparian rights? I'm like, I've not seen this word yet in this business. But, if you are an introvert and you just aren't confident, being on the phones yet, or calling people because you feel like you don't know the right thing to say.
Yeah.
The way that I've coached folks is to simply call as a service. And I would suggest new agents, and you let me know where you'd suggest new agents start, but I always suggest with your backyard. Get a list, pull a list of homeowners in your area, do some circle prospecting. Stick to your zip code, because you essentially, if you've lived in your area for longer than a year, there's a lot about your area, and there's a lot you should be knowing about the market data. But simply call individuals and introduce yourself as the neighborhood realtor. Rob, when I tell you, I'm licensed in the entire state of Georgia, right? And I'm currently getting my license in South Carolina. So as of this recording, I should have it. But any person that I call when I get on the phone, whether and I'm here in Atlanta, so whether they are an hour away from me in Buckhead, I am still their neighborhood realtor. If they're down in Macon, Georgia, which is 2 hours south of Atlanta,
right,
I'm your neighborhood realtor. You know why? Because I am licensed in the entire state. So having those conversations, talking about, hey, there are individuals interested in moving into your area based on this MLS data. The conversations that you can have with people, I think a lot of times agents overthink it. They think that they have to sound extremely polished before they make that call. And let me know, Rod, if this has been your experience. I make my calls messy. It's not perfect. It's messy, but I get the job done.
Absolutely. Likewise, I agree. Yeah. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Right.
I would say it doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to make the calls. You can't, I learned something years ago, Marvin, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. You can't say the right thing to the wrong person.
Right.
Yeah. Some people will, some will, some won't. Some are going to do business with you, some won't. You just got to do it. You just got to take action, take massive action. Just start making the calls and just do it. Do it afraid.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, and just, pivoting here for a second, right now, Rod, I don't know about your market, but the market here in Georgia and a lot of places, we're starting to see a little bit of normalization. Of course, this isn't 2 years ago where it was multiple offer situations. That's still happening in some parts of the United States. But I would assume the answer to this question is, if there are any individuals that are in a lull right now, that they should be making their calls, right? So if a person is doing that, what else can an individual be doing to continue to drum up business outside of making calls that you'd suggest?
Definitely. I've been telling my agents on the team to ramp up your open houses.
Yes.
Get out there, open houses, not just popping in the MLS on Friday night, but work it.
Right.
Be strategic about your open house. Get out there, knock on doors in the neighborhood. Let everybody in the neighborhood know that you're doing an open house. Have the neighbors come in maybe a little bit, maybe an hour earlier, or that Friday night or something like that, and then open it up to the public on that Saturday. But be strategic, put out more signage out there, promote that open house, because you're going to get the foot traffic coming in, people driving the neighborhood to see your signs, but it's also those neighbors. All of those neighbors are potential sellers and buyers for you. So ramp up open houses, but also, I'm the know, like, and trust guy. I'm the SOI, the sphere of influence. Those people that already know you, like you, and trust you, you got to reach out to them. You got to check on your people. You got to remind them that you're in the business. You know, a lot of agents make the assumption that everybody's thinking about them at all times. But no, you got to be intentional. That's why Coke always runs the commercials. That's why you see all the commercials on TV and on social media. They're reminding you got to stay top of mind intentionally with your folks, your audience. I call, you know, I've broken down my list. I got, you know, my big list, all of my past clients, sphere of influence, but I got those, what I call my A list, my ambassadors. Those are my ambassadors. Those are folks who, man, without a shadow of a doubt, if they heard anybody just thinking about, they could be just glance over the house, they're gonna say, call Rod Obi, you know. So, but it's been intentional to really, you know, identify that list, break them down, but stay in touch with those folks systematically throughout the year. I love the holidays. You know, I'm real old school, Marvin. I use KV Core, but I still love my old school Excel.
I'm not mad.
Man, I got a list of them all the way down. My ambassadors broken down, my top 25 folks, and I know every part of the year. Man, I'm saying, you know, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I'm loving on them around Valentine's Day. I'm telling them to advance their clocks, you know, spring break, you know, spring that clock forward, you know, throughout the year, Memorial Day, throughout the year, I'm touching them. I'm finding reasons to intentionally, you know, say hello to them, send them a text, send them a video text message, or send them an email. So intentional about that sphere of influence.
So basically just continuing to till that soil, continuing to water those plants. The garden that you've built up, obviously it was dirt at one point. But as you mentioned earlier in the podcast, you dropped the seeds, you've watered the seeds, you fertilized the seeds, and now you've essentially created an apple tree that will continually yield a harvest. And, you know, just to use a scripture reference as well, you know I'm gonna mess this up, but there's the work is out there, but the workers are few. I know.
The harvest is plenteous, but the laborers are few.
The laborers are few. Thank you.
I
think that's why I love scripture, man, because it's so many nuggets and business gems, life gems, and whatnot. But we just gotta do more of the labor. I think a lot of folks they get into this thing with they don't set the right expectations. They definitely don't have the right processes, the way that they run their day, because you have to be efficient, not necessarily busy, because efficient leads to productive. Busy leads to burnout, I would assume. That's the way that you look at it as well. But walk us through, as a military guy, military background, what is your day like from the beginning of your day in your business until the end of your day in your business?
I'm up early. I never could shake that habit, Marvin. I'm up, you know, at least 5 o'clock. I do have some 4:30 days every now and then. But usually by 5, I'm up. And of course my day starts out with prayer time. I'm just spending that time with God, you know, just thanking God and just giving him glory, you know, for another day, and just, you know, praying my day. That's another thing, you know, I talk to my team about: pray your day.
Absolutely.
Pray your day, speak those things, call those things that be not as though they are. So start declaring and saying affirmations over your day, speaking it, declaring it, praying. Reading time, of course, you know, in my word, and also, you know, it's behind me, you know, I'm an avid reader. So spending some time in something positive, motivational, YouTube, gym time. Some days, you know, Jim, I'm not as lean and mean like you are. I like to get in the gym on occasion, but and then I crank up my day. My team and we meet 3 times a week at 8 a.m. Eastern time. So they're up early, and 8 o'clock, man, we're going. I have a Monday mornings, we have our team meeting. That Wednesday, I have an agent academy. So Dream Team is my team. Dream Team Agent Academy. And big shout out to Dream Team. If you guys are watching this, they did an amazing job. Over 300 homes sold last year, and 141 million or so in sales. So they're getting it. Yeah. So, and then Friday, I have a mastermind as well. Friday mastermind.
Now, is this all online? Is this in person?
It's all on Zoom. It's in Zoom, on Zoom.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's amazing. So we get our day, I get our mindset ready, and then boom, we go out. After that, Marvin, we're making calls. We're prospecting, lead generating, getting out, setting up appointments for the afternoon, or doing follow-up, more prospecting, or appointments. And that's really the day. Just getting it to the end of the day and really tracking your numbers. I really encourage that with my group. Tracking your numbers, accountability, get an accountability partner. So that's part of it as well. We're on a chat group as well. So we're posting our numbers sometimes, hey, this amount of conversations that I had, this amount of appointments that I went on.
Love it.
So that accountability piece as well.
And let me ask you, where are your leads for your other team members? Are they getting leads from specific lead sources, just sphere of influence? Because I know you've got that tenure behind you, but I have to assume
Yeah.
you've got agents with various levels of experience. So where are they, where are you guys getting your lead sources from?
Right. A lot of them are sphere of influence as well. Some of them are using KV Core. They're boosting properties,
Okay.
listings to leads. A few sources out there. Some of them are paying us for some leads from Realtor.com, but most of them are KV Core type leads. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yes, sir.
I've been talking with my team about leveraging Google pay-per-click ads.
Mhm.
Facebook, of course, has ads, but leads are only as good as you work them, right?
Absolutely.
What may be a bad lead can be turned into a good lead, depending on how you operate with it, and what could be a good lead can be turned into a bad lead. So I think it ultimately boils back down to getting those reps in, having those conversations, learning how to overcome objections. That's, for me, unless a person hangs up on me, if you stay on that phone with me, I'm going to get to some level of closing
That's
or
good.
at minimum, letting them know, hey, I'd like to just get information to you about your home, just so you can know what's going on in the market. As
Mhm.
soon as, even if a person, this is just some tips to those listening, even if an individual isn't ready to buy or sell, if they're a homeowner or plans to be a homeowner, put them in your CRM, right? It's not ever, it's very rarely going to be, you're going to make that one call, that person's going to be ready to sell their $1 million home today, bring the paperwork. That's the unicorn
Right.
situations.
Right.
You're going to talk to a lot more no's. You're going to talk to a lot more not yets. But those no's and not yets could eventually become a yes and then an I'm ready. So throw them in your CRM, get them going on a drip campaign. We've got plenty that I share with my team here. And if you're interested in joining EXP, we can kind of walk you through trainings that I'm sure you do as well on your side, about how to create campaigns. EXP offers that all day, every day in our weekly training classes. But
Mhm.
even if you're not physically talking to that individual for the remainder of that year, they should be getting touched by you either via text message, email, and then of course phone call. So I think that's important because, again, you're a married man, as you mentioned, and I'm sure your wife wasn't ready to marry you after the first date, right? It took some.
No, absolutely not, man. I was stuck in the friend zone forever. No, but that's a different story.
Amen. No. It took some time. I've been with my wife 20 years now. And
Awesome.
it took some time. I didn't go in for the kill on the first date. Nobody, no one,
Yeah,
no relationship, a healthy relationship works that way. And it's just all about
absolutely.
nurturing and being good to people, loving on people, encouraging people. If you're talking to folks that are not ready to buy because they're scared of the market, or they're scared of where interest rates are going to go, you can still provide some level of encouragement. And I want to, as we land the plane here, Rod,
Yeah.
share some words of encouragement for buyers, share some words of encouragement for sellers, and then for other real estate professionals, and we'll land the plane.
Sure, absolutely. For our buyers out there,
Yeah,
it it's a great time to really pick up some deals out there.
yeah,
It's always been about affordability.
right,
It's always been that's the conversation I tend to have with my buyers and also my agents. We all know, yes, interest rates are up right now, but
right,
it's about affordability based on what your income, your debt to income ratio,
right,
what that loan officer is going to qualify you for. So based on the rates right now, in this day and time, I don't want to date this video, but
right,
whatever that rate is, whatever that payment is, that's where you are. And I've always asked my folks, my buyers, what's comfortable for you? What's
right,
comfortable for you? You may qualify for $500,000, but is that comfortable? Is that payment comfortable for you? So it's a great time to buy. Just get out there with a great agent and get that home. Stay positive. Expect that you're going to get a great, amazing house. And later on down the road, you can always refine all that good stuff. Sellers, it's an amazing time, but right now in this market is an interesting market that we're in. The home has to be priced right.
exactly,
2 or 3 years ago, yeah, they were flying off the market $50,000, $70,000 above list price, but
right,
the house has to be priced right. Listen to that agent. Listen to the agent
right,
that is recommending giving you their expert advice on pricing that home, because right now, that home does have to be priced right in order for it to move. So we're seeing homes selling, multiple offers, 20, 30 people showing up at the open house, but because they're priced right. They're priced right. The homes that are overpriced, they're sitting. So we are coming back to that normal market, like you mentioned, Marvin, normal market where the homes have to definitely be priced correctly. And agents out there, man, make this year your best year ever. Expect it. I always talk about you tend to get what you expect. So put some expectation on your business that, hey, this week I'm expecting a listing. I'm expecting a new buyer. I'm expecting this year is going to be my best year ever. I'm going to sell more homes. I'm going to serve more people than I've ever done ever in my real estate career. So this year can be your best year ever. Just expect it, declare it, believe it, and it's done.
I love that. I love that, man. He left the mic smoking, y'all. Jeez. No, Rod, you're absolutely right, man. And I think you made a really solid point earlier in this podcast about the importance of open houses. We're aligned in so many ways, man. And just as you're speaking, I'm like, okay, this guy's been doing it for 20 years, so I know that this is the right way of thinking. But I've got my folks on the open house challenge, so I'm telling them try to do 2 open houses per month at minimum, especially if you haven't had a closing and you're a brand new agent, because that's just going to get you, first of all, to see how open houses are done. And it doesn't necessarily have to be for an agent here at EXP. It could be any agent. If you see the home that's been sitting for a period of time, maybe that agent will let you run their open house. And of course, any leads that come in, those are all yours. And you may interact with a potential buyer that's unrepresented, which would be amazing. And then for my buyer clients, as you mentioned, the perfect time to buy is always today, because 2 years ago, I had buyers tell me, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I don't think I should buy right now. We don't know where the world's going to end. And now we realize that interest rates were historically low at that time. So although you may have paid a little bit over asking price, you're now locked into an amazing interest rate. And for my sellers right now, as you mentioned, I think that it's important to work with a professional, resetting those expectations, because just because your neighbor that sold their home 2 years ago got several thousand over asking, this is a different market. This is a more normalized market. It's normal for your home to sit 30 days minimum, even if it is furnished amazing and things of that nature. So that's why it's key to work with a professional. So rock solid advice all around, Rod, and I really, really appreciate that.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, Mark. Hey, wanted to give a shout out to my amazing wife, man. I shout out everybody under the sun except my amazing wife, LaSherie, and that she's a big part of the OB team as well. So
is she licensed as well?
Yeah, she's licensed as well.
Awesome.
So
Awesome, brother.
Yes.
Well, before I let you go here, Rod, I always try to ask my guests one interesting fact about them, or something that you're into that people would never guess, and then we'll let you go.
Wow. Woo, let me see.
Do you bungee jump on weekends?
Man, I'm an amazing roller skater. I can roller skate like it's nobody's business.
Okay. I love it. I tried roller skating 2 weeks ago, brother. I was out there looking like a baby. I mean, my knees were shaking. I was like, you know what, God, this is not my gifting. So let me. Well, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, Rod, how can people get in touch with you?
Man, you can go out to my website, theobteam.com, obeeteam.com, or man, you can find me on social media, Facebook. Not a big Instagram person, but Facebook. You can Rod OB. You can find me out there.
All right. And we'll put all of Rod's information in the show notes of this podcast. If you've gotten value from this podcast, smash the like button if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform, let us know some positive feedback. We're really trying to get this podcast to one of the top real estate entrepreneurship podcasts out there. And it's because of you. If you're getting value from this conversation and the previous conversations that you've had, let us know so that we can continue to bring stellar people. Rod, again, is doing some amazing things out there. He brings that fire. I'm incredibly encouraged in my business just from listening to some of the nuggets that he shared on this podcast and previously. So connect with him. He is a gem of a real estate professional. And Rod, I thank you again for being a part of this
Thank
conversation.
you, sir. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Marvin.
All right, guys. Until the next podcast, this is your brother, your uncle, your favorite realtor's favorite realtor signing off.